Hello everyone, this is Stephanie. Welcome to another video. So today we're going to work on the Ancient Ruins bracelet. And this bracelet uses some of the beads from my most recent collaboration with Eureka Crystal Beads called the Stonehenge Ancient Ruins Collection. So this is using that big 16mm cushion cut. Absolutely had so much fun making this. I've been calling it the power bracelet because it just, I don't know, there's something about that center bezel that's just, I don't know, it gives me a feeling of, you know, a powerful feeling. I don't know. Maybe it's just the whole idea of Stonehenge and you know, the whole thing. But anyway, so here it is. So I'm going to clear this off. We'll get a materials list going and we'll get started. So please don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified when I upload a video. Thanks so much. Let's get materials list going. So I need a 16mm cushion cut fancy stone. So that's what's in here. And if you haven't seen those before, it's just it's a cushion cut like you've been using, maybe a 10 or a 12mm, only it's a nice big one in a 16mm. So it's absolutely stunning. I love it. I love the color. You need some 11/0 seed beads, 15/0 seed beads. You need a few Delicas. I'm using this 4mm Preciosa round crystal, and it is so beautiful. I haven't used these yet. In a video, and they're just gorgeous. Such a pretty bead. You'll need some 3mm pearls, some 6mm pearls. You need a toggle clasp, or any clasp you like. I'm using a toggle clasp. You need a few jump rings, you know, just to attach to the toggle clasp if you need to. I'm using a bead reamer because we're doing cubic right angle weave here, but you can, any way you do your cubic right angle weave is fine. Stop bead, size 10 beading needle, size 12 beading needle. I've got some 8-pound Fireline black satin. You can use 6-pound here too. That would work just as well. I think that's everything. So please don't forget to check the description box below the video for all sizes, shapes, colors, amounts, places to purchase, any coupon codes I might have, any information I might add down there. So I'm going to clear everything off and we'll get started. Okay, so you see I'm using my bead reamer. However, I have a whole playlist of cubic right angle weave techniques. So check out that playlist. I'll link it in the description box below this video. And maybe you'll find a technique that, you know, speaks to you and that's easy for you. So thread your needle with a comfortable amount of thread. You know, cubic right angle weave takes up a lot of thread. So, but if you're struggling, make it, you know, make it 3 feet. Okay, so I put on a stop bead, left enough of a tail to sew in. I'm going to use 8/0 seed beads because I just think it will be easier for you to see what I'm doing. I'm going to pick up 4 of my seed beads. You're going to be using your 11/0s. I'm going to drop those down to my stop bead, and I'm going to sew those into a circle by just going through all the beads again. I'm just going to go through just 2 to start. See, so this is what you have, and then you want to just reinforce by going all the way around. You want to pass where your stop bead and your tail thread is. I'm just going around like so. So this is what we have. Okay, I've done my reinforcing. You want you to exit a side bead, so top, bottom, one side, the other side, that you want to be coming out of the top of this bead on the side here. Now I'm going to grab my bead reamer. I'm just going to pop it right down there. Or anything that, you know, will fit in there. Okay, and I'm just going to hold it like this. I'm going to pick up 3 of my seed beads. Exiting here, I'm just going to sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting. I've taken I've sewn my tail thread in just to take that tail thread out of the equation so it's easier to see. Okay, so just put those 3 beads on, and when I kind of move in this direction, do you see what I have? I've got these 3 beads facing me with the holes facing me, and then these 2 right here. So I'm exiting this one underneath. I am just going to take my needle and thread and just advance through that next bead. Just like that. This is what we have. Okay, I'm going to pick up 2 of our seed beads. Exiting the top here. Let me see if I can get a little closer. I'm going to sew through this one and then the one I'm exiting. So I'm going to do them both at the same time. 1, 2. I'll hold that there for a second. And now I've put another face of the unit on. And all we're going to do is rotate. See how I'm just rotating my hand around? So this is, now these two beads are facing me right here. And I'm just going to advance my needle right up through the next bead that's right above the one I was exiting. And when I do that, you see how I have another, I'm ready to put another unit on. Okay, we're going to pick up 2. Exiting here, do what we did before, so through this one and then the one I'm exiting. Just like that. And now I have another face of my unit on. This is what we have. We're going to rotate, again, just rotating my hand around and sew directly through the next bead. So I'm exiting here, I'm going to sew through this one. Okay, so if you notice now, we're exiting this bead. We have this one, and we have one at the top here that's already there. I'm just going to sew through that one. So just putting my needle and thread through that guy at the top. I'm going to pick up 1 bead. I'm going to sew through these 2. So these 2 right here. 1, 2. Like that. And then I'm going to sew through that top bead again. Right there. Like that. Okay, so that's the entire unit. But we have to sew these 4 beads together right here. Got to put a thread through. So I'm exiting right here. I'm just going to sew through this one. You can just sort of face it this way. This one. This one. Through this one. And you want 1 more because you want to thread here. You always have to sew these all together at the end. And now you have your entire unit on. I'm still on the bead reamer, and if you notice, don't worry if you get stressed out. Look at the indentation in my finger. It's still, gets me when I do cubic right angle weaves. So don't worry about it. Here you go. You've got your unit on, and then we could just add another unit. Okay, we're back. We're going to add on a unit. So here's our. I'm still holding it on the bead reamer because it's just easy. So we're exiting here. I'm going to pick up 3 of my seed beads. I'm just going to sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting, like that. And then I'm just going to rotate and sew through the next bead in line. Okay, so I'm just going to, when I hold that over, you see I've got my thread coming out at the top bead there. I'm going to pick up 2. I'm going to sew through this guy and this guy. So 1, 2. Get another face on. I'm going to rotate and sew through the next bead in line, which is this one. It's getting easier now, right? 2, pick up 2. Pick up this bead and this bead. Sew through this one and that one. Just like that. Now we're going to rotate, and we're back here. We have our 3 beads. 1, 2, 3. Exiting here. Going to sew up through this one. I'm going to sew across the top one. I'm going to try not to blur out on this one like I did earlier. Like that. Picking up 1. So I want to connect these 3. I'm going to sew through these 2. And then through the top one, like that. And then we want to sew these beads together. So I'm exiting right here. Just going to turn it this way and sew through all these beads on the outer edge. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm just going to rotate my piece a little bit. You've got to go through 1 more. So you're exiting on the side, and you have a thread between each of all these beads. And I have to continue making your crawl units until you have this entire top, I guess you call it, done from here to here. The first group of crawl units is going to go to this point, and then we're going to make a turn, and we're going to go down and do the other side. So you need to decide, you know, how long you want to make this piece. So this piece is, see, is this piece right here. Mine is 22 crawl units, which gives me 3 inches. So we're going to do 22 and then 22. Of course, we'll do this turn together. And then we're going to repeat that for the other side. So you'll have 2 pieces that are kind of shaped, you know, like a corner, right? So if you need to adjust how many units you put on, my bracelet is 7 inches with the clasp. This much, the size this way, just the craw part, including, you know, the turn and everything, comes out to 5.5. Now this piece, the first piece I'm making, is 3 inches or 22 units, and the reason that it only comes to 5.5 is because, you know, we're going up here, so we're taking up some space, right? So I hope that's not too confusing, but it really is easy to size. You're just going to make this piece on the top a proper length to fit your wrist, and then we're going to do another one. All right, so get all your units done for up to this point. So whether it's 22 or more, we'll come back, make the turn, and we'll do the other side. Okay, so you've gotten one side on to the point, and this is what it's going to look like. Of course, I don't have all 22 units on, but I'm just doing a little sample here in eighths. So this piece, again, is going to go like this, right? And it's going to come down to the end. This is where your working thread is. Okay, so now we're just going to make a turn. So let me move this out of the way. And I'll pull in a little bit. All right. So you're just moving along and you've got your units on. So you're exiting here. So instead of putting another unit on, all you're going to do is you're exiting here. You're just going to sew through this top bead right here. Like that. And you can put it on your bead reamer right here and continue to work like that if it's easier for you. So we're exiting that side bead and we're going to go in this direction. Exiting right here, I'm going to pick up 3 of my beads. You'll be using your 11/0. I'm using a different color just because I thought it would be easier for you to follow. So exiting the top here, I'm just going to go sew through the other side of the bead we're exiting, just like that. Just going to rotate. And you see, that's where it looks confusing because you have all this stuff attached to your unit, but the unit is the same as before. So you're exiting right here. You're just going to sew through the next bead up, and that's going to be this one right here. So here, I'll move that out of the way. See, you're just going through the next bead. So don't worry about it. You'll get it. So now you're right here. You're exiting here, and you want to add 2 beads to this unit. So pick up 2, exiting here, we're going to sew through this one and this one. So just like you've been doing all along, you just have all that extra sort of hanging out with you there. So just like that. Now I'm going to just rotate. It kind of flipped over on its own and advance through the next bead. Just like that. And then you're going to add to these 2. So pick up 2, sew through this one and this one, rotate, and you have the 3 beads now here. So just advance 1, sew through the top one, like that, pick up a bead, you're going to sew through these 2, so just like we've been doing. Nothing's really changed. And this one, so you're going through the top one. And then you're just going to sew these beads together. And that's my little kitty there who wants some attention, which I will give her shortly. Just sewing through all the beads. There. Just keep rotating around until you come back and you have a thread through all those beads just like you've been doing. And now you have your turn made. See that? And then all you're going to do, at this point is just keep adding on units until you have 22 units after your turn. So you're going to count from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. till you have your 22, or however many units you need there. All right, so get that done and come back and we'll continue. I've got my 2 pieces made. Here we go. And they're ready to go. So let's turn these 2 pieces into this. So here's my stone. I'm just going to take 1 piece. I'm going to turn it this way, making sure that nothing is twisted. And I'm going to take the other piece and turn it this way, making sure nothing is twisted. Be really sure about that. You don't want your ends to twist. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little bezel right in between these 2, just like that. All right, so set your pieces up, make sure everything's straight, and then we'll get started. So we're going to set up the first corner right here. So we're going to thread the needle with about 1.5 feet of thread, and you want to put a needle at each end. So we're going to use both ends. I think would be easier to do that. So where we want to put our needle, and I'll give you a little sort of logistics here. So here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, these 2 11-ohs, okay? I want you to go down to here and sew through. Just sew through this one. No beads on your needle. I just want you to get your needle situated in the right place. So you're right there. Okay, you're going to pick up a 15-0, that beautiful Preciosa 4mm crystal, and a 15-0. You're exiting. We just put our needle through here. So skip this one, and sew through this one. So you're sewing through the same one that's on the other side of that corner. And when I do that, that sort of situates that bead right there. So you can just, at this point, you can even out your needle so that you have one on, even thread. Next up, you're going to pick up an 11-0, and on one side, you're going to go through. You're exiting here. You're just going to sew through the next 11-0 that's on the craw piece. Pick up another 11-0 and go through the next one. So sew through this one. Okay. Then you're going to do the same thing for this side. Pick up an 11-0, exiting here, sew through this bead. Pick up an 11-0, sew through this one. So the next one, just like that. So now we're getting ready to get that get that bezel done. Okay, next up, we're going to taking one of your threads. You're going to pick up a 15-0, your 4mm crystal, and a 15-0. So I'm just going to count. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to count from here. So again, just logistically here, you have these 2 here, and then these 2. I'm going to count from this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go up number 4 bead right there. Like that. Then I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. 15-0, 4mm, 15-0. Now I'm going to sort of look at this area right here. I'm going to start here. 1, 2, 3. Here's number 4. I'm going to go down number 4 bead. So 1, 2, 3. Here's 4. Pull that through. That's what it looks like so far. I've turned my piece around so that I can work easily. Now I'm just going to put my 2 11-ohs in. So I'm exiting here, 1 here, and then another one here, like that. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. 1 here. So just going through the next bead, and 1 here, like that. And now I have both my threads up at the top where I'm going to be adding the 15-0 and the crystal, but I'll just let you get to this point first. So with 1 thread, I'm picking up 15-0, crystal, 15-0, and I'm going to sew through the thread where this guy is coming out right here. So see that, this bead? I'm just going to go through all those 11 O's like that. And then you just want to take that other thread and you just want to go through. You're going to go through these three, the 15-0, the crystal, the 15-0, and then down these, sort of crisscrossing your thread right there. So down all of these guys, like that. And when I hold it like so, this is what it looks like. Okay, this is what we have so far. So we're going to leave this, leave your needles on, leave everything right there, and we're going to turn to the back. So you're going to do this. You're going to do the same thing as far as threading. A thread, maybe 1.5 feet with a needle on each end. So we're going to set up this side. So let me pull in again. Okay, so I'm going to do this, something very similar here, just going through the same beads. So again, here's your setup here. You've got 2, 2, 2. I'm going to come through this bead right here. So if you're looking at these two, go down one and come through this one. So you're just sewing through with just your needle and thread. And then let me look at my back here. So then on this side, we're going to pick up an 11-0, a 3mm pearl, and an 11-0. And I'm going to sew through the same hole on the other side. So here I'm exiting here, skip this, sew through this one. And I'm just sort of evening out my thread a little bit. This is what I have so far. Now I'm actually going to pick up a Delica. So pick up one of your Delicas and you're going to sew through the next. So you're exiting here, you're going to sew through the next one. So we did that on the other side, only we used an 11-0. Using a Delica on this side, another one, like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, so picking up the thread on the other side. I'm putting a Delica here. And a Delica here. So putting on 2 Delicas instead of those 2 11-0s like we did on the other side. So now I'm just going to even out my thread like that. And this is what we have so far. Okay, we're back. So we've put on the pearl, the 11-0. We've got the 2 Delicas coming through. And now you're going to pick up an 11-0, your 3mm pearl, and 11-0. So I'm going to count from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go through number 4. Bead this way. Okay. And then you're going to fill in your 2 Delicas. That's 1 and 2. And you're just going to repeat that on the other side. So put your 11-0 pearl, 11-0, and then your Delicas, and then we'll continue. Now we're just going to fill in this corner. So we're going to pick up 11-0 pearl, 11-0, exiting here. So remember, I'm just going to skip this one, and I'm going to sew through this 11-0. So that's where the other thread is coming out. The Delica 11-0 and the Delica and that 11-0. It's like that. So I'm making this pocket to fit the stone in. And then with your other thread, you're just going to continue through the 11-0 pearl, 11-0. And don't worry about if it gets loose. You're just going to pull it. Nothing's secure yet. And then through all these beads, exiting this 11-0 right there. The one before the 11-0 pearl, 11-0. Right, so now you got this little pocket. You can pull this side, you can pull that side a little bit. We're going to put our stone in a minute. The back, here are my front threads. We'll get to those in a minute. We've gotten all our beads on here. Now I want you to take one needle and I want you to go reinforce everything you just put on the back here. Come all the way around, and then I want you to come up through here and exit a pearl. So you're just going to just start with you, just sew through all the beads. Like that. And you don't have to pull this incredibly tight. It will just pull together on its own. So here. And then I'll just let you finish the rest. So you notice it's going to get tighter. And you want to come all the way around and exit this purl right here. Okay, so I've come all the way around. I exited a purl. Now I'm going to my other needle, which is going to be exiting this 11-0 right here before the 11-0 purl 11-0. Just sew through this 11-0 and this purl. Just making sure our needles are all in the same place. Next up, I'm going to pick up 7 of my 15-0s. I'm still on the back. Exiting this purl, I'm going to sew through the next purl. Like that. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to pick up 7, sew through this one, pick up 7, sew through this one, pick up 7, sew through your original purl again. Okay, coming down to my last 7, sewing through the last purl, and this is what we have so far. It's getting there. So we still have these 2 threads right here. I'm just going to leave them for the moment. So here's my back right here. So we're going to leave this, and then on the next clip, we're going to turn it over and look at the front. Okay, this is what the back looks like. I still have my threads here. They're coming out of the pearls. I just like to hold them there just in case, we need to tighten the front, tighten the back, and to make it perfect. So I'm just going to flip my piece over. Just going to keep those back threads down there. Now I'm on the front again, and you're exiting, that 11-0 before the 15-0 crystal 15-0. So it looks like. Put the stone in. So I'm just going to sort of maneuver it around. It's going to open up a little bit. I'm going to move everybody around and press it in until it feels like it's gotten into that pocket a little bit. So here, these are my back threads. Here are my front threads. And it went in pretty nicely. So of course, it's not going to stay now, but this is what the back will look like. Okay, so here's your front. So make sure you have your front threads ready to do a little sewing, and you're just kind of laying that in there. That looks pretty good. Okay, next up I'm going to pick up some 15-0s. So I'm exiting the crystal. I'm going to pick up 8 15-0s. You'll need 7 or 8. I'm not sure. Whatever gets you from here to here. Now my first bracelet, I think I used 7, but this one, I think it needs 8. So I don't know if it's just the way I was beading. I don't know. It's just a tiny 15-0 more. One tiny one on there. So check 7, check 8. 7, 8, and see which one. So I'm going to do this all the way around. See which one works best for you. So let's see. And when I'm done with the 8, if it doesn't pull in tight enough, I'll take one off. All right, so I'm going to do that all the way around. So I switched it back to 7 because I think 7 is better. So, it just depends. You could go 8. So I'm just going to take my other thread now, and it was exiting here. I want you to, go through the 15-0 and come out the crystal. So I've left my other thread. Don't cut it off. And then I want you to reinforce this all the way around with this thread. And you can actually, at that point, you can sew through some of the beads and tie off this thread. So I've reinforced with the other thread. I still have the other thread on. So here, I'm going to show you how I tied this off. So I went all the way around. I came through the crystal. I'm just going to sew through the next bead, which is a 15-0, and then down this line right here of the 11-0s. Let's see if I can get them all at once. If you can't, don't worry about it. It's exiting on 11-0. So I'm just sewing through that side there. And then I'm just going to work my way through my cubic right angle weave and just weave around and then clip off this thread. Okay, you've got your 2 threads on the back, so I want you can sew those in now. So do it the same way I just showed you with sewing in that front thread, right? So you'll be exiting, I already did it, so you'll be exiting a purl. You can go around a little bit if you want, but you'll exit a purl and you're just going to just jog yourself over here through these 11 O's, and then you're going to sew your thread in over here. And that will tighten it up really nicely. So that's what the back looks like. We have a little more to do on the front, and then we can start the clasp. Okay, let's get the last little bit on the front done. So you'll be exiting one of your 4mm crystals. I'm not sure exactly which one. I might have moved over a little bit, but you just want to sew through the next 7 of those 15 O's. So it doesn't really matter which one of those you're exiting. Then I'm going to pick up 4 15 O's. I'm going to skip this crystal and sew through the next 7 15 O's. Push that. Make sure it goes in the front. 4 15 O's. Going to do that again. Going to skip that crystal, sew through the next 7 15 O's. Make sure those go in front. And you're just going to do that 2 more times. Okay, so I've gotten all the little 15 O's around the crystals, and just want to come through your next 7 like that. Just get my needle through there. There we go. Okay. And then right through the crystal, and then you're just going to sew that thread in like we've done before, and then you have your crystal all surrounded. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so get that done, come back, and we will start on the clasp. So here's the back, here's the front, looking great. All right, see you in a few. Okay, here we are, and we are ready to connect the ends here. So we're going to do a little cubic right angle weave unit right here by connecting all these beads. So we can put on, see here we're connected right there, then we can put this on. Before I do, just wanted to show you a couple things. When I was designing this, I thought, gee, can I make this into a necklace? So use that as, go around the neck. I don't know, maybe make this shorter and put some drops on it or something. And then I thought, what if I did this? You know, made it a little longer and did this. I don't know. You know, just all kinds of options. You can even, what if you even added another unit? You could shoot like that and add another 2 on for a really, you know, a big bracelet. I don't know, that might be huge. I don't know, just all kinds of ideas going around my head that I think could be really fun with this, but we're gonna do this. All right, so let's get started. Let's sew these 2 together by putting a craw unit here. So we have that edge on at the end of our bracelet. So you'll be exiting one of these beads here. If you need to add thread, you can just, if you have tail threads that are too short, just add a little bit of thread on so you can get across here. You probably do have a thread at the end, but either way. So here I'm exiting here. I'm just going to sew through this guy. So you want to be exiting that middle unit, that middle bead on this unit right there. Okay, let's connect the ends here. So 2 things. 1, make sure you are not twisted. That is the most important thing. You don't want these twisted. You want them nice and flat and straight. And 2, if one, like mine are okay, but if one of your sides looks longer than the other and your count is perfect, you've counted all your craw units, don't worry about it. It will go together. It could be just that your beading is a little bit tighter on one side, or when you did your bezel, it kind of pulled in a little bit. Just connect those 2 ends as long as your counting is perfect. All right, so here we go. Exiting right here. I'm going to use a different color bead so you can see what I'm doing very clearly. So exiting this one, I'm just going to sew through the same one on the other side. Make sure nothing's twisted. Like that. And then I'm going to pick up another 11-0 and go back the original bead I started from. Like that. And that's going to make one face of a unit right there. So just continue on through this bead again. And this one, like that. And now we've finished that one face. So this is what it looks like so far. I'm just going to turn my piece this way so I can see what I'm doing. This is what it looks like. So I have these 3 beads, 1, 2, and 3. I'm exiting this one. Just going to advance my needle up 1. So we're just filling in here. Picking up an 11-0. So down through this one. And then I'm just going to go back through this one and this one. So where I started from. And now I have the second face of that unit on. You can, at this point, just sew up through the next bead. So here, this is what we just put on, rotating and sewing through the next bead. Like that. And this is where we are right now. Next up, we're going to complete this face. So we're exiting here. So we have this bead on, this one, and this one, exiting here. Just going to pick up a bead and sew through this one. Going around again. So exiting here, going to sew through this one and this one. Now you have that next face on. Okay, so this is actually not hard at all. It looks like it because you're doing the center, but we don't even need to add any beads here. So you're exiting right here. I'm just going to turn it to the inside. So I'm looking at the inside now. My thread is coming out of this bead down here. Just going to sew through this one. So that's the next bead in line. And if you notice, we have the 4 beads in here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're just going to sew around them. So let's see if I can get this so you can see it. So sitting here, just going to sew through this one. And then, so you've got to get through this one. See, that's on the bracelet. We're not adding any beads. This one. And then back through this one. And all you've done at this point is you've sewn the interior. You've just put a thread around those 4 beads. 1, 2, 3, and 4. See that? And then you just can, at this point, you're coming out of here, you can just either, sew up one and just leave it there for the moment. And if you have enough left over to add the clasp, you can add the clasp, we'll add the clasp with that, or you can add a new thread. So this is what you've done. You've just connected those 2 ends, see, just like that. All right, so get that done, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, before we can get the clasp on, we have to prep it, which means you have your clasp. If you're using one from the collection, it will look similar to this. This isn't the one from the collection because I used that one, but it's pretty much the same size. So you want to put a jump ring on because this ring is facing this way. I want it to be facing that way. And it's very few clasps come where the ring is facing this way. That's attached to this part. So just put a jump ring on right here so it's facing the way you want it to face, just like that. So I used I believe this is a 6mm jump ring. You want to make sure that it's the right size because you want to fit these 2 big 4mm in between, and you want them to rest in there. You don't want them to rest on thread. All right, so you'll need it. I'll put it in the description box below the video. I'll get the exact size, but I believe it's a 6mm. All right, so there we go. You've prepared that one, and then you want to prepare the toggle bar as well. So I've done the same thing here. I only have added 3 of them. So I added 1 to this, the part that's attached to the toggle. Then I added another one that's facing this direction, and then another one facing this direction. So you want this part is where you're going to connect. So you want to add 3 jump rings on to that. You can add more if you need more space, but you always want to end up with the one facing in this direction, like this bottom one, so we can sew through that easily. All right, so prepare your toggle and then come back and we'll put it. I've already put the ring on because I just wanted to make sure I was doing it. I usually take pictures when I'm making something, so I take a picture of each step, but I missed a couple of steps here, so I put the ring on already just to practice. So you're just going to connect the same way in the toggle ring or the toggle bar, that bottom loop. So the bottom loop on the toggle bar is this one, and the bottom loop on the ring is that one. So it doesn't matter. Whichever one you're putting on first, it's just going to attach like that. First thing first, we want to move this thread. So you probably, if you followed me, you're exiting this bead. It doesn't really matter, whatever you're exiting. I just want you to make sure you move your thread. So you're up here, like that. So you're going to be at this top hole right there. And then we're going to move it a little bit more. We're going to move it through the next one. Just turning the plate piece to the side, like that. And then, one more time, exiting here, I'm going to sew through this one. So you're actually on the back right now, where we're going to start attaching. So you just want your thread coming out right here. It doesn't matter actually if you're on the top or the bottom, you want your thread coming out of this bead, the top bead of an end unit. Okay, let's get this toggle clasp attached. So you're exiting one of the top bead of one of these end units right here. So you're going in this direction. So I'm going to sew it through here. Doesn't really matter if you're on the front or back, however you ended up is fine. So exiting here, I'm going to pick up a 3mm pearl and my crystal. I'm going to sew through the bottom hole of my toggle like this. This is what it looks like. Then I'm going to pick up a crystal, the 4mm crystal, and the pearl. And I'm going to sew through the top hole of this one, going this way, like that. And as I said before, you want to make sure that we have ways to go, but you want to make sure that this ring, that the 2 crystals are on either side of the ring. You don't want it like that. You're going to pull it so that pops into place, and as we sew it in, it will completely, it will stay. All right, so here we're exiting that 11-0 in the corner right now. I'm just going to move my thread through this one. So I'm just going around. I'm coming around to the front now, and then turning it over again. I'm going to sew through this 11-0. So now I'm exiting the same place I was before, only I was on the other side before. Exiting the top bead of this unit in this direction. I'm going to pick up my pearl, and I'm going to sew through this 4mm, the ring, and this 4mm. Like that. Let's notice how my ring is staying in between those 2 beads. Then I'm going to pick up another pearl, and I'm going to sew through the top bead of this end unit this way. Like that. And that's what we're going to add on. So we have 4 pearls and we have the 2 beads right here. So now you just want to move around and sew through everything again. So you're just going to retrace your steps until you're coming out of here again. Okay, so I've come around and reinforced, and it's looking good. My ring is staying right there. You want to make sure that's nice and tight. Okay, so just a couple more things. I'm just going to advance again through here. This is sort of an optional step, and then through here. So now kind of come to the back again. And I'm going to pick up a 15-0, and I'm going to put a 15-0 here, and then a 15-0 here, like that. And then I'm just going to just advance and advance. I'm going to pick up a 15-0, put a 15-0 here, and then a 15-0, and put a 15-0 here. So I've just added 2 15-0s in between the 11-0s on the end right there. Just thought maybe it would make it, you know, more rigid. It's an optional step. And then you're just going to sew this thread in and then just going to do your other side. Okay, let's add the pearl. So I'm going to attach to this unit. So here, this unit and this unit, but I want to go through the bottom of the unit. So here is the unit right here. Let me make sure I'm using the right one. This one. I'm just going to put my needle directly through. So I have about a foot of thread on here with a stop bead and a tail to sew in. So I'm just going through the bottom of that unit and look and see, are you coming out right in the middle? So I'm coming out in the middle. I know it's hard to see, but you'll see it when you're doing it. I'm just going to place that thread on like that. I'm going to pick up my 6mm pearl and I'm going to come up through the middle of this unit. So that's the unit directly across from it. Right now it looks a little crooked, like it's not coming through, but it is. So you just want to get your needle in there. I'm just stuffing it in, having it come out the top there. And then when I pull, I've got this pearl. You got to push it down a little bit. I've got the pearl sitting right there. And then all you want to do is just sew these threads in. I mean, you can come back around and go down again if you like, but just work through your beads until you have, until it's nice and snug. So sew both threads in right there and then do the other side and we'll finish up. Okay, we're back and we're done. And here's the bracelet we made today. Here's the original right there. They came out the exact same size. So just count your crawl units so that everything comes out even. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I had so much fun making it. It was just different, doing something different for a change. Like I really haven't seen a bezel like this before. And it was so much fun to design. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope you make it and post it on Facebook. I want to thank you again so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.